So Jeff Gibson, I'm an associate dean in the college. And especially for those fairly new students to the institution, this career readiness minor might make sense for you to think about including that in your program of study. It's an interdisciplinary minor, which means that it draws from coursework across the college. It's not centered in a single discipline like English, like history, but it draws from coursework from a variety of different departments and disciplinary areas. And Holly had mentioned earlier about the NACE career readiness competencies, and this minor is kind of is developed around those NACE competencies to help students be able to demonstrate that they have attained those competencies. If you look at the requirements here, there's two specific requirements. One is a course in communication called interviewing. The other requirement is some kind of practical experience where you're doing an internship or some kind of applied experience. And we're fairly flexible on that requirement. It could be in your major area of study, or if you have a second minor, it could be in that area of study as well. Or we can work with you to develop an experience on campus, those kinds of things. And then there's 9 hours of coursework that's chosen from the other elective options that are on the page here, and this is also in the catalog. And I'll just note that several of these course options are also available to students in the True Blue Corps, and you can do what we affectionately refer to as double dip, meaning you can apply that same course to the requirements in the True Blue Corps and to these minor requirements as well. So, any questions? Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so my name is Dante Cerrillo. I'm the Student Engagement Coordinator for the College of Liberal Arts, and I'm joined currently by 4 panelists. The 5th one is running a little bit late, but she'll be coming by shortly. If you could all please introduce yourselves, say who you are, what your major is, and what you hope to do after you graduate.
So, hey everyone, my name's Jonathan. I'm a political science major with a pre-law concentrate, and I'm hoping to go to graduate school after undergrad, whether that's law school or getting my master's. I haven't decided, but I'm pretty confident it'll be law school.
Hello, my name is Leah Kimbrough. I am a communications major with a concentration in organization. My goal is to become a communications manager for any company that will take me. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine January. I am a music industry major, and my goal is to work within the creative department at a record label.
All right. Hi everyone, I'm Kaylin Harden. I'm a public writing and rhetoric major with a Spanish minor, and I am looking to be either a developmental editor or a grant writer. Haven't decided which.
Thank you all for that. So how it's going to work here is it's mainly going to be audience-based questions, but I'll also ask y'all questions too from time to time. So I would like to start off by asking the first question, and I think it's the most important question, but it is, what were your thoughts about internships before you attended MTSU? So before you were ever exposed to, higher education, what were your thoughts on internships, and what did people tell you that they were? You want me to go first? Yes, down the line, please.
So when I was actually a high school senior, I was told by my teachers to take an internship if I was going to go into MTSU or just go into higher education in general. But in my mind, an internship was just unpaid labor. I thought it wouldn't have been useful to my career. At that time, I didn't make up my mind if I wanted to go to college or not. But I think that internships are, that mindset has changed. I think even if you're not planning on going to college, I think internships are really valuable. And they don't always have to be volunteer. I know my first internship was paid. So that's something that's definitely changed. I used to think that it wasn't necessary, but I think it helps your resume out a lot.
I would say mine was very much what Hollywood would say internships were. So, like going and doing your boss's laundry and getting them coffee, things of that nature. I also didn't think it was very necessary. If you were doing your classes, then why would you need to go and be in the work field doing extra stuff? Like it just seems unnecessary for me at that time.
Yeah, so there was a time when I did not even think I would be able to attend college. And so for a while, I didn't think anything about internships, to be frank. But as I got older, it was basically to piggyback off of what everyone else was saying. I thought it was grunt work, and I thought it would be completely unrelated to my desired field. And so coming into MTSU, it was nice to explore different opportunities.
Yeah, similarly, I thought that internships were just going to be the grunt work, fetching the coffee. If you were really lucky, I did think that some internships, the mystical one would actually be good experience on the work, but I figured that most of them wouldn't be helpful. You wouldn't really learn much work, but thankfully I was proven wrong later on.
Thank y'all for sharing. Does anyone in the audience have a question that comes to mind right now?
I'm just curious, you've all done an internship. What was your big takeaway?
So I think for me personally, when I first got my internship, I got a political internship in Nashville. I was helping a councilman get elected. And for me, initially going in, I thought the most valuable thing was, I finally get to have something to put on my resume. But I realized coming out of it that I got so much more. I actually realized how much I love politics. I realized how much I love to be engaged in the community. I did a lot of door knocking. I did a lot of community advocating. So I learned that I really like public speaking. I really like talking to these people, talking to voters. And I think the most valuable thing that I got of is just an actual passion. I remember when I first signed up for political science, I kind of picked it begrudgingly, but I think it's evolved into something that I'm very happy to be doing.
One of my internships was just a generic communication internship. And in that, I did social media. And at first, I was very much like, I do not want to do social media. Like, I don't even really have social media of my own. So why would I want to do it for a company? And I actually learned that I really love it. I love the planning of it, the scheduling. My first experience of it was an internship here on campus with the Business and Economic Research Center. And just to kind of go off to with the internship and what the Career Development Center was kind of talking about with how CLA, you can really do anything. A Business and Economic Research Center sounds awful to me. But then when I actually did it, I loved it because it was what I wanted to do. So even if that's another thing I've learned is that I'm just going to go and talk to anyone and everyone, because if I'm doing the things I love, I don't really care who I'm working for. So
I would say that one of the most important skills I learned or came to recognize during my internship is communication. Number one, Nashville, it feels very big. It's a very small town. Everyone knows everyone, and so be nice to everyone, which is not hard to do. And so it was very interesting and exciting to learn just how connected everyone is. And also to know that no matter what work you are doing, you can flip it into something incredible on your resume. It might feel like, I'm doing something that they just don't have time to do. No, project management, organization, you have those skills. And that was something that I loved learning through my internship.
Yeah, for me, I really valued the collaborative writing skills that I developed because, as a college student, most of your assignments are, you sit alone in your room doing your essay and then you turn it in and no one else sees it ever. So for me, learning to write with others, sometimes at the same time was really was scary, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how you do this. But it's really just learning about the writing process, making sure that your communication is clear, making sure that you all are organized. And so for me, having that skill of collaborative writing and having the experience in it in a way that felt more suited to actual jobs rather than academic research, like in a classroom writing. Even though I was doing academic research, it still felt like, I don't know, what's the word, like tangible workforce experience in collaborative writing that I definitely feel like will help me later on in my jobs.
So I know that for a lot of us before college, internships were like these mystical things that we didn't know what they were, or we had our predisposed beliefs of what they were. So I'm curious that once you entered into college, what was the process of locating the internships that you had? Were there people who helped guided you? Were they just offered to you through a class, or just like what did the process look like of how you discovered the internships that you worked?
Yeah, so for me personally, my first internship that I got was right before I entered college. It was it was the summer that after I graduated high school, and I got that internship from a high school teacher. Actually, he was a friend of a friend of a friend. It was kind of one of those situations, and I realized that ever since you get like your first internship, the most valuable thing that you could do is network, get to know other people. I was doing a lot of voter contact, so that was perfect for me. I got to talk to a whole array of people. And after I did my first one, it was a lot easier to get a second and a third one. So for me, the process was talk to my teachers, and I guess for any university student, talk to your professors, talk to your career developments. They probably know some resources as well. Just network, just ask people. They probably have a position.
Definitely agree that you just need to network. I've gotten one through my neighbor. Like, I just brought up the things I wanted to do, and they were like, oh, well, I have I need an intern. Do you want to be my intern? And so that's how I ended up getting one of mine. Another thing that I did was just to be bold. The most recent one that I've had, there was no internship openings or postings, but I had emailed the director of the communications, and I was just kind of like, hey, I am a senior at MTSU, and I would really like to be an intern for your company. Like, can I get an interview? And he was like, I would love for you to. And now I am an intern for him, and I love it. I love every part of it. So it's definitely not only like networking for sure, but to just be courageous and talk to everyone, ask people questions, all the things. So
I'd like to piggyback off of that and say that independence and having confidence in yourself is a huge part of it, because while it's nice to have internship coordinators at school, oftentimes they are also professors with multiple classes who are very busy. And so if you're willing to reach out to those employers on your own, that will be extremely valuable from just one internship into any. On the flip side, I actually have a really cool story for how I got my most recent internship 2 years ago or more. In a class, we were required to reach out to one of a list of record labels and find an employee's contact information and interview them. So I ended up interviewing someone who became my manager just this past summer and reached out to me and said, hey, we have an internship position open. I'd love for you to apply. And it was total 180, and it was the best experience I could have ever asked for.
Yeah, kind of going off these answers, I found my internship through asking around. I feel like I had kind of a little bit of a unique finding internship experience because I didn't have transportation available to me. So that really severely limited my intern options. But I was working at the University Writing Center here on MTSU, and I still am. And so I asked the directors, I was like, hey, what can I do to help around the center here? What opportunities, what projects can I work on here? And they worked with me to do a research project for the Writing Center about our tutor training. And we did research, and and so yeah, it was very much a asking and making the opportunities for yourself if they're not given to you, which very often they're not.
Several of you have talked about multiple internships, and so I'm curious about what you think the advantages are of doing multiple internships, and how many might you suggest that folks consider doing?
So I think however much you do really depends on what you want to do. For me, example, I really wanted to branch into other types of industries. So my first internships, my first two, they were both like political and legislative internships. And then I did a third one for the city, but that was urban infrastructure. So for me, it was still that kind of same world of like politics and development, but it was like a different branch. So for me, that I wanted to learn more about it, that's what was valuable for me. But I think depending on what you want to do, like if you know you have a goal, like if I was a traditional law student, if I knew that I wanted to go to law school, I would maybe only intern with a law office like maybe 1 or 2 summers, and then that would probably be enough for my application. I don't think there's a concrete answer you could give to that, but I mean that was my experience. I took multiple because I wanted to branch out and I wanted to learn.
I would always suggest to do as many as you could. I feel like I'm a very stubborn person, and so I walked in and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be this, like XYZ. And I've learned from my internships the things I love, like social media management and project management. And I've also learned some things that I don't love, like event planning. And so it's been great to kind of, like, even if you, like me, are a stubborn person, I think you should just do it. If you can do it, just do it. Because also, what's it going to hurt? Like, you're just going to get more experience. And if you really don't like it, then you know you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. So that's kind of what I would suggest.
Yeah, so for me, my first internship was remote and it was unpaid and it was required. That was the internship I took for my required credit hours per my major. And then this recent one I took out of my own accord. I am very career driven and focused. And so I would, my advice would be to think about your career. Do not just think about school and say, I have to have this internship. Okay, I'll just do whatever internship. Really try and find some that are geared towards what you want to do long term. And then you can move forward from there, whether it makes sense to start applying for like entry-level job positions or internships. Either one is beneficial.
To go off of that, as many as you can, I think is a good answer as well, but definitely for the purpose of finding out what you want to do. Because the first internship I did, like you, was because I had to fulfill the requirement. I was panicking. I was like, I need to get it. I don't have a card. What am I going to do? So I ended up doing academic writing, and I don't want to be a researcher or a grad student or a PhD researcher. So finding that internship was definitely beneficial for the credit hour, and it taught me collaborative writing, which I am very grateful for. But I am also due for an internship later on this semester for grant writing, and I wanted to pick that one because I want to know if I enjoy grant writing. So I think it's important to take internships, not because you have to or because you feel like it'll like check some box, whether that's in college or on a job, but to figure out what you like to do, what you can do, what you can expect your like boundaries to be in a workplace, just to figure out all you can about yourself and what you want to do in the future.
Can you talk about how your network has expanded since doing internships? Have you connected with MTSU alumni?
So for me personally, being in the world of politics, I've gotten to network with a lot of legislators, like a lot of Tennessee state legislators, a lot of councilmen, a lot of city employees, and that was my goal. I probably could have broadened my network even more if I tried, but that's primarily who I networked. And depending on the type of internship that you do, like I know that mine, they offered a lot of events that I could go to. So even though it wasn't really required that I had to go up and to talk to people, I still decided to anyways because, I'm a pretty social person. I like to talk to people, but also I knew that these people were kind of cool and kind of important, and it's always nice to have the contact. So for me, it's a bunch of legislators, city employees, and probably someone that I could call up if I wanted to have another opportunity somewhere.
I would say that I wouldn't be able to even count how much my network has grown with all the internships that I've had the opportunity to be a part of. Even the ones that I didn't particularly enjoy, I still really enjoyed the networks that I had and the communities that you grow through that. I'd say the biggest thing was not only with the companies, but you'd also get it with the the professors here. I'm really close with Dr. Prittis in the Comm Studies department because she's like the internship professor, and she's been able to be like, oh, well, I have a friend, and like, here's their contact information. And so she always like gives me contact information for all of these different types of people. And so it's really good to connect with professors for sure, because they have that contact information from alumni or other professors or past students that are now doing whatever. So it's good stuff.
I would say that if you looked at my LinkedIn now compared to May, it's a huge difference, and that's so exciting. And I would strongly encourage you in your internships to meet with everyone, not just your department. Get out there. I had a 30-minute meeting with the co-president of the label, and it was awesome. And he wanted to know about me, which was so interesting because, you know, most of the time they're telling you what they do, which is also awesome and huge. But it was really encouraging to know that pretty much everyone in that building wanted to help me and wanted to know more about me and know how they could help me. And so I would strongly recommend networking not only in your department, but all throughout. Since then, I have worked for the same company freelance, which is incredible because one of the directors, MTSU alumni, texted me and was like, hey, are you available this day for a freelance job? And I made myself available. And so in general, yes, my network has grown tons, and I would strongly encourage you, just have lunch with someone, say hi to someone, just get out there and tell them your name and get to know them just as much as you want them to get to know you.
Yeah, I would say for my internship, since I panicked and, it was good opportunity for me to exercise the, making opportunities for yourself. But on the flip side of that, it also did limit my networking because I was working with the same, directors and coworkers that I had already done at my job. And so I didn't get the opportunity to network as much as I probably should have. Should have as in, like, I should have made those opportunities. Nothing against the Writing Center. But in this future upcoming internship, I have already reached out to the Choral Society here at Middle Tennessee, the president. I met with the secretary, and I involved myself in, joined the Choral Society. I met with the members, and so this time I want to make more of an effort to network because this is such a great opportunity to, marry both of my worlds as a public writing rhetoric major, but also someone who is in choir, who loves it. So I definitely want to meet and talk to as many people as I can, both within the organization. I want to talk to and network with the people outside this organization. And so, haven't had it yet, but I'm very hopeful that this experience will be a fantastic opportunity to reach so many people in a lot of different ways.
I'm curious about what you guys think. What are the biggest differences between like on-campus internships or like off-campus internships? And if you like prefer one or...
So I haven't taken any on-campus internships, so I can't comment too much on it. I know a couple friends that have been writing assistants and research interns, and I know the number one thing that they love is the convenience. They get to go to work right after class, and then they don't have to drive. I took an internship in Nashville, so I would get out of class, and then I'd have to do a 45-minute ride down to Nashville. So I can't comment on it much, but I know that the number one thing that people love is the convenience.
I would say that with the on-campus internships, it's a really good opportunity to grow your network here, like MTSU professors and students. I know that I'm able to, like, if you see someone in the hallway, I'm usually able to say hi to someone because of that internship. Whereas my off-campus internships I really enjoyed because I felt like it was a more real world experience. I really enjoyed both perspectives of it, but I do think that MTSU, there's a lot of, you have to work. It's a very just interesting dynamic kind of situation So I do prefer my off-campus internships more because it is more so of what to expect once you graduate and have a profession.
Yeah, so like Jonathan said, I personally have not had an on-campus internship per se. However, I did take one that was entirely remote. My employer was based in Florida, and so we never met face-to-face. So my advice would be, if you do something like that, it requires a lot more discipline because you make your own hours a lot of the times, and the convenience is a huge factor and a huge pro. And I would say that the networking and missing out on the real world experience is probably the con. So I would say it's great to do both and just determine how much discipline you require as an individual and go from there.
Yeah, to add on to all of that, I also think that if you are interested in remaining in academia, on campus is a great opportunity to not only meet with other professors and stay in touch with MTSU, but a lot of the more on campus internships like mine, the research one, is a great way to get your foot into, research papers that you can publish, get into working with faculty here, getting into hours and stuff. And so I think if you want to go to grad school, PhD, I think it's a great opportunity for that. And again, the convenience. But also I do agree that if you are on campus, you do oftentimes miss out on sort of real life or that's not real work, outside of academia work, because the dynamic between like as a student rather than as an employee, I think is more enforced on campus because you're usually working with professors, you are in academia. So it kind of depends on if you want to stay in academia or if you want to not.
One of the things that I was curious about is, so we all had these expectations of what internships maybe looked like, and I wanted to know, was there anything that maybe exceeded your expectations, or something that surprised you, or something that you struggled with that you didn't think you would struggle with, and how did you overcome those things?
Yeah, so I'll address the first part. I think my number one expectation, and I know we kind of mentioned it earlier, but like I kind of had this idea that, the Hollywood idea of an internship, you're a coffee runner, that just idea that you're not doing much. But I was very surprised with, one, how little like moderation I actually had. Like there was no one that I directly had to report to when I was working. I did have like a boss and manager, but like in terms of like they let me have a lot of responsibility on my own. And then the second one that exceeded my expectation was just how much I learned. I know that I mentioned it earlier, but I learned so much during my internship. If there was anything that I struggled with, because I purposely picked things that I wasn't that involved in or knew much about, I threw myself into internships where I had to learn on the job. But I think that actually made it more fun, and I think kind of forced me to be adaptable to the situations.
I would say that, going off of what we had previously said, I really did enjoy my first internship because it was a surprise on what you kind of expect it to be, and it was amazing. It was an on-campus internship, and I learned so many things that you just can't really learn in a class. My second internship was off-campus, and it was what I was expecting. It was very much like going to get the coffee and doing very much grunt work, and so I felt very I just wasn't very I was done with internships after that. It's basically what it was. My mentor, Dr. Prittis, was like, you need to keep doing it. Like you're just a sophomore, so you need to like get back out there. And so I go, and I've had a few more after that, and I love it. You might have like that one bad experience, which always sucks, but you're gonna have those really good experiences, and then it just makes everything 10 times better. So
yeah, so when I went into my my internship coming from a production assistant background, I was terrified. It was an office. They've all worked there. No one knows me. And I'm expecting very much grunt labor. And I was extremely surprised and thrilled to find out that it seems like every team member went out of their way to make sure that I knew I was just as important as they were, and that my ideas were just as important as theirs are. And I think that is something that hopefully everyone can find at an internship, because that's the truth. You are not any less important because you are an intern at all. For us, it was very nice. It was like they made sure not to ask me to go get coffee or run an errand because I was busy. I had my own assignments, my own projects as well, and it was really nice to feel appreciated in that way. I even had a director at one point. I kept asking questions during a set build, and I was like, okay, thank you so much. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know I'm asking so many questions, thank you. And he stopped me and he said, this internship is for you. This is for your career, and that's our job, is to help you however we can. And so I was very, very lucky to find a team so supportive of their interns like that. And so that was my experience, and that is what exceeded my expectations.
For me, the biggest surprise was the change between student perspective to employee perspective, because even though I wasn't like an employee, I was a research assistant, it was still, I wasn't aware that I was under the mindset of like, I have to do this to get a good grade. Wait, there's no grades. What do I do? This is different. And it was really difficult for me to overcome that. I'm not working towards a grade. I'm not working towards like, I'm not being tested here. I am here because I have the skills to do what has been asked of me, and that if I do something wrong or I'm a little off the mark or just things change, that as a team, everyone I'm working with is there to say, okay, well, let's do this instead. Like it's not like punitive. There is collaboration there. And so for me, it was a different, it was a shock of like, I'm not my own student here working towards a grade. I'm here to collaborate with others towards a shared goal rather than my own little scholarly journey.
If I'm an employer, what do you want me to know? As far as if I'm hiring you as an intern or even as an entry level straight out of college, what would be important for me to know?
Elevator pitches.
There we go. Yeah, elevator pitches. Just like kind of how we mentioned earlier, telling you what I've done in the past, telling you what my goals are currently, and telling you what I want to do in the future, having that prepared. I think for me personally, because I've done so many, I would probably be a little bit different than someone that's that hasn't taken any internships. I would definitely lean more into the fact that I already have some experience, but I know that would depend on what kind of experience you have at that point as well.
I like where you're going with it, but I think I'm trying to like flip the script, right? Like, what advice would you give to an employer who had a new intern or an entry-level role? How could they make the experience better for you?
I think I'm trying to think of how my experience could have been better. So I'll give an example. When I was working at the city of Murfreesboro for a little bit as a planning intern, a lot of it was kind of what we described. It was kind of grunt work, or it was kind of like busy work. I sat in on a lot of meetings, and I didn't really have much. I didn't really talk in them much, but that kind of made sense because I was still learning in it. But I got my first independent project, and I loved that. I got to do my own research. I got to sit at my own desk and just present something to the team. So if I had to give any employer advice on how to make an internship better, it would probably be, of course, the point of an internship is to learn and to also have someone that's willing to learn. And but I think giving that student or that intern a little bit more power in what they do and kind of giving them a little bit more independence, that was something I found really fun.
I would say that regular check-ins are amazing, because as an intern, you can be a little scared to go up to the employer and be like, hey, so I don't know how to do this. And so it's really good to be like, oh, so how are you doing? How's your stress? How's the project going? And then that gives you the opportunity as the intern to be like, well, I actually don't know how to do this. And it's a learning opportunity, so that not only are you getting your project done, but the intern now knows how to do the project. And so check-ins are always something that I love. I love check-ins. They definitely can also like make you dig deep into thinking, well, what have I struggled with in the past? And then can I even ask a question about that? Like in class, like did I have an assignment where they would know and it'd be like, well, how would I apply this to like work? How would I do that? And so check-ins are a really good opportunity for learning and relationships and team building. So it's good.
That is a good question. I was like, I don't know. And so that was a really great question. It's really nice, I think, for us, like you said, to flip the script and think about it. And truthfully, I only have this answer because my internship was so amazing that I would suggest every employer apply these. And I would say make your interns feel safe to ask questions, let them know it's okay, and give independent okay, sorry, I'm ready to talk now. Give independent assignments and also timelines, but also make it be a little bit flexible. It was really nice for me in both of my internships to have to discipline myself to get these things done, to learn different ways of getting one job done. And so I would say making your interns feel safe and also giving them room to grow while making them know, again, that they can ask questions, that that's okay.
Yeah, building off on all of those real world experience, check-ins, and safe environments for sure. I would also say, picking up off my last answer, because a lot of students, especially for their first internships, are coming from that I'm a student, I'm in my little hole doing my essays, and then I do this and I get a grade and then I move on with my life and nothing ever happens ever. Is to make sure that your interns know exactly what they're doing there and what the purpose of it is. Because for a lot of students, the assignments that they do don't always feel like they have a purpose outside of getting a grade. And so making it clear to them that like we are doing this because we want this to happen towards the goal of this. Here are the steps of how we're going to do this. What questions do you have? So making it really clear like what is expected of them, what work they're going to do, how they can do it if they're not sure, and just what the overall collaborative goal is. You know, it can be really helpful to explain what other people are doing on the team of like, you know, this person does this, you can feel free to reach out to them for these reasons. Just making it really clear to them that like, for the purpose of helping them transition out of that student mindset into a worker mindset.
All right. So, final question for the panel. What liberal arts skill did you develop the most during any or all of your internships, and how do you plan to use it for the future? Does not even have to be career related. It could be very personal.
So yeah, I think in the world of politics for myself, I know that one of the goals of the CLA is definitely emotional intelligence. I was doing a lot of political work. I did voter outreach, so I did a lot of like door-to-door and phone banking. And people are very passionate when they start talking about issues. We had a script, we called it something, I think the word was like an active script, where instead of giving them a pitch, we ask them like, hey, what are your biggest issues? And I've really learned how to deal with that. You know, there's people that I've talked to on the phone or at the doors for hours because they just are really passionate about the topic they want to talk to. So developing that emotional intelligence and learning how to maneuver it is something that I've learned now. And also I think that's something that I'm just going to use for the rest of my life, especially if I stay in this field.
I would say that as a communication major, I feel like every single course I do helps me so much. Like right now, what I can think of is small group communication, and I want to say it's on here. COM 3220 was really good because it gives you the tools you need in order to kind of just talk. Like whether you're in a big team or a little team, it kind of helps, even if with it being called small group. But I really like all of my comm classes. I feel that you can't go wrong with communication. So the more you learn, the better it is. So I don't have everything that I've learned from CLA has been used and will be used in my future. So it's really hard for me to just pick and choose. Like communication, overall is what I would say I'm going to use in the future.
So I was also going to say communication. But alongside communication, I think critical thinking, I think they go hand in hand. And for me, that is probably the most important skill that I used because it helped me think about what I was going to communicate, what I wanted to communicate. And again, working on projects in a team space and in a professional space as opposed to completing an assignment, knowing that my efforts and my work is important to the world is so huge. And so I would say being able to take that and consider it and use my critical thinking skills to put my creativity out into whatever project I'm doing were most beneficial for me.
Yeah, I was talking about this earlier. The biggest skill that I gained was collaborative writing, which employs both communication and critical thinking skills. But it's such a necessary skill because it doesn't matter if it's just emails or whatever your work field is, you're going to be writing. So being able to collaboratively write with people, even if you're not writing like the same document at the same time, being able to communicate with people via writing in whatever genre, whatever like rhetorical situation is at hand there, being able to collaborate with people via writing is something that is so important for literally every job ever. And so as, wanting to be an editor, grant writer, collaborative writing not only is important for, the emails and the resumes, but it's also important of doing my job and being able to make sure that I have an actual impact. And that, because you can't do that alone. And so collaborative writing for me, I can't even say it, collaborative writing is for me definitely the biggest skill that I learned.
Thank y'all for joining us. Can I have a round of applause for our panelists?